The car sitting in your driveway right now might be worth a lot less than you think. Some car brands that used to be popular are quietly falling apart. They're closing dealerships, losing money, and leaving their customers stuck with cars nobody wants. Here's a look at 10 car companies that are in serious trouble right now. Genesis is Hyundai's luxury brand, and they started out strong. Nice designs, fancy interiors, good technology, and prices lower than BMW or Mercedes. For a while, it looked like they might actually shake up the luxury car market, but now they're losing momentum fast. In 2024, Genesis sold just over 69,000 cars in America. That's 15% less than the year before, which is bad for a brand that's still trying to prove itself. The G70, which people used to praise for being fun to drive and a good value, is now falling behind newer competitors. The G90, which is supposed to be their best car, barely sells at all. Even their SUVs, the GV70 and GV80, aren't selling as well as Hyundai hoped they would. People are starting to report problems with Genesis cars. Reliability issues are popping up, and owners are complaining about software glitches on internet forums. Their electric car, the GV60, hasn't impressed anyone. It doesn't go as far on a charge as people expected, and it costs way too much for a brand that's still pretty new. Here's a big problem. Genesis doesn't have its own dealerships in most places. You still have to buy them at Hyundai dealerships, which makes the whole luxury thing feel fake. They keep promising to open fancy Genesis showrooms, but it's taking forever, and in some places, it's not happening at all. Hyundai is also starting to focus more on their Kia and Ioniq electric cars instead of Genesis. If Genesis doesn't come out with a really popular car soon, it might end up like other failed luxury brands that nobody remembers anymore. That means the cars will lose value, service will get harder to find, and the brand might just quietly disappear. Lincoln used to be the car brand for successful people. You'd see them in presidential motorcades and parked outside fancy restaurants. But today, Lincoln is struggling badly. In 2024, they only sold about 88,000 cars in America. That's 27% less than the year before, and it's the worst they've done in over 10 years. All their regular cars are gone now. The Continental and MKZ stopped being made years ago. Now they only sell SUVs like the Nautilus and Corsair, and these don't stand out from other brands that cost less money. Ford, which owns Lincoln, is spending billions on electric cars and trucks. But Lincoln? They're not getting much attention at all. The electric cars Lincoln promised keep getting delayed. There's no clear plan for when they'll actually arrive. Meanwhile, Cadillac is making electric cars that people actually want to buy. Lincoln is just stuck in place. Here's something really telling. Ford moved the production of the Lincoln Nautilus completely out of America to China. That's a huge warning sign. Fewer dealerships are selling Lincolns now, which means if you need service, you might have to drive farther and wait longer. And if you want to sell your Lincoln, good luck. They're losing value faster than almost any other luxury brand. Remember when Nissan made great cars? The GTR was legendary. The 240Z was cool. The Maxima was reliable. Those days are over. Yes, Nissan still sold 875,000 cars in America in 2024. That sounds okay until you look closer. The Maxima's sales dropped by over 90%. The Altima is dying too. Cars that used to be everywhere are now disappearing. Behind the scenes, things are even worse. Nissan is losing $5.4 billion. They tried to merge with Honda, which could have made them the third biggest car company in the world. But Honda said no because they didn't want to give up control. Now Nissan is panicking. They're cutting 9,000 jobs and closing factories. They canceled 2 electric cars they were planning to sell in America. Remember Carlos Ghosn? He was Nissan's CEO until he got arrested for stealing money from the company. He actually escaped Japan by hiding in a box used for shipping musical instruments. That was in 2018, and Nissan has been going downhill ever since. They've had several CEOs come and go, and nobody seems to know how to fix things. People inside the company are saying Nissan might only have about a year left unless someone saves them with a big deal. If you're thinking about buying a Nissan right now, you should know the company itself might not be around much longer. Chrysler isn't just struggling anymore, it's basically disappearing right in front of us. Back in 2005, Chrysler sold more than 500,000 cars in America every year. In 2024, they only sold about 145,000. That's a massive drop. What cars do they even make now? Really just one, the Pacifica minivan. There's also the cheaper Voyager, but that's only sold to businesses, not regular people. The famous 300 sedan was discontinued in 2023. Even the Pacifica, which is their last real product, saw sales drop 17% this past year. Chrysler's big hope was an all-electric SUV called the Airflow. It looked pretty cool in the concept photos. But in 2024, Stellantis, the company that owns Chrysler, canceled the whole thing. They said it cost too much money to develop and not enough people wanted electric cars. Now Stellantis is looking at all the car brands they own and deciding which ones to get rid of. Chrysler is near the top of that list. Some Chrysler dealerships are already going out of business. One in Maine couldn't pay back a $5.7 million loan. Another one in Georgia shut down after a fraud scandal. Chrysler says they're going to make a new SUV in 2026, but that might be too late. When a car brand is this close to dying, the cars lose value fast, parts become hard to find, and getting your car fixed becomes really difficult. Buick technically still exists in the United States, but you'd barely know it. They sold just over 130,000 cars in 2024. That's terrible compared to how popular they used to be. Most Americans can't even name a single Buick model right now. When people don't recognize your brand, you're in big trouble. All the regular Buick cars are gone now. The Regal, LaCrosse, and Lucerne have all been discontinued. What's left? Just some SUVs that look almost exactly like cheaper Chevrolets and GMCs. Buick used to mean luxury, but now it doesn't really mean anything special. General Motors, which owns Buick, keeps saying they have big plans for the brand, but there's no real proof. Their electric car plans are really vague. They showed off something called the Wildcat EV concept, but there's no date for when it will actually be made, or if it will be made at all. Meanwhile, Cadillac is getting tons of money for new electric cars. Buick is getting almost nothing. Here's the interesting part. Buick is actually doing great in China. Chinese buyers love the brand and think it's fancy. In fact, more than 80% of all Buicks sold worldwide are sold in China. That means General Motors cares way more about selling Buicks there than here in America. They might just stop selling them in the US altogether. The warning signs are already showing up. Fewer dealerships sell Buicks now. You barely see any Buick commercials anymore. The brand doesn't appeal to young people because it's boring, and older people don't remember it like they used to. If Buick leaves America, anyone who owns one will see their car lose value fast, and getting parts and service will become really hard. Jaguar has always been about beautiful cars, powerful engines, and British luxury with attitude, but in 2024 they basically stopped making almost everything. The XE, XF, F-Type, E-Pace, and even the electric I-Pace are all gone now. Only the F-Pace is still around, and it won't last much longer either. The reason? Jaguar is trying to become a completely electric car brand. That sounds bold and modern, but there are big problems with their plan. Their first new electric car is going to be a 4-door GT that costs more than $125,000. That's their strategy for winning people over. 2 more electric cars are supposed to come by 2026. But here's the thing. Jaguar has no reputation for making good electric cars. They've never proven they can do it successfully. And they're asking people to pay over $100,000 to be the first to try their new cars. Most people won't take that risk. Making things worse, Jaguar's rebrand was a disaster. They got rid of their famous leaping Jaguar logo and replaced it with a plain letter J inside a circle. Their new slogan is Live Vivid, and their ads show fashion models with vague, trendy words that don't mean anything about cars. People on the internet hated it immediately. Longtime Jaguar fans said it was confusing and out of touch. Jaguar is also closing dealerships all across America, which means fewer places to get your car serviced. And Jaguars have always had a reputation for breaking down and needing lots of repairs. Now, during this huge change, that risk is even bigger. This isn't just a transition, it's Jaguar completely starting over. It might save the brand or it might destroy it completely. Infiniti used to be seen as a cool alternative to BMW and Lexus, a luxury brand with style and attitude. But by 2024, it's becoming irrelevant. They only sold about 57,890 cars in America last year. That's down 13%, and sales have been dropping for more than 10 years now. The biggest warning sign? Infiniti is losing what makes it special. More and more Infiniti and Nissan dealerships are combining into the same building. That saves money, sure, but it also shows the brand is in decline. When a luxury brand has to share space with a regular brand, that tells you everything. Infiniti is also making fewer types of cars. They're stopping production of the QX50 and QX55 by the end of 2025. Trade problems with Mexico have messed up their manufacturing. Instead of making more cars, they're making less. The new cars they're planning, the QX60 and QX65, are only for rich people. They're not trying to make affordable cars or appeal to regular buyers anymore. Plus, Infiniti has had lots of recalls over the years for things like faulty airbags and broken power steering. Their reputation has been quietly getting worse. Nissan, which owns Infiniti, says they still support the brand, but their strategy is obvious. They want to make more money from fewer, more expensive cars. That might help the company's bank account, but for regular people, it's risky. Infiniti isn't a bold choice anymore. It's a shrinking brand that might not be around much longer. Suzuki didn't crash and burn in America. They just quietly left. In 2012, Suzuki officially stopped selling cars in the United States. They couldn't keep up with all the safety and environmental rules, and honestly, their cars were pretty boring. While other companies were making exciting new cars with better technology, Suzuki kept making bland, weak cars that nobody really wanted. But the problems didn't stop when they left America. In 2016, Suzuki admitted they cheated on fuel economy and emissions tests. They did this on 16 different car models, affecting over 2 million vehicles. It was a huge scandal that made news around the world. Then things got worse. Germany started investigating Suzuki's diesel cars because they might have been using special devices to cheat on emissions tests, just like Volkswagen did. That investigation is still going on, and Suzuki is still dealing with legal problems in several countries. Today, Suzuki still sells motorcycles, ATVs, and boats in America, but they're done with cars. If you see a used Suzuki for sale, you should know that finding parts is harder, support is limited, and the name carries a lot of baggage from all these scandals. It might look like a cheap deal, but it's probably not worth the hassle.